September 5th, 1921. Where were you, Ben?
I was not, I guess it was my grandfather was coming of age and was just exiting puberty and was getting ready to meet my grandmother. I guess that's where I was.
I bring this up because of the fact that, Americans have a love of comedians with girth.
With what?
Girth.
Oh, girth.
Girth.
Like large size.
Yes. Large size comedians, especially large size comedians that have, an ability to move, that are graceful and things along those lines.
John Candy. I love John Candy.
John Candy.
Chris Farley. Amazing.
John Belushi. Chris Farley.
But Belushi wasn't as big as the other two. I mean,
but he's still a heavy set. He was a heavy set man. He was in his 250s.
And what did they all have in common? They died very young. But let me ask you this, Al: is it that the public is enamored by heavyset comedians, Jackie Gleason, who can be physical, or is it because a heavyset entertainer goes for the joke? Because
the thing is that they find it, if they're fun to watch, especially if they've got grace and they've got ability to move like Chris Farley could, even John Belushi could. Okay, obviously Gleason could. Whatchamacallit? Oliver Hardy could. Okay, going back to that, Lou Costello.
Wait, Hardy was the chubby one?
Yes, he was the heavy set one.
I always get
Dan Laurel was the skinny one. Okay, and the biggest of these stars came out in the 1909, actually, by the name of Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle.
Roscoe. This is Roscoe.
Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle, a young man who, at his height of fame in 1921, signed a contract with the film studios for $1 million a year.
Wow, that's what Babe Ruth was making.
That's $17 million today, in today's dollars. He was driving a car that back then cost $30,000. Okay, so I mean, this is a guy who was as famous as they come.
And living large. He was living large.
Living large. He's large and in charge. Okay, and what ends up happening is the silent film era. He is actually the guy who helped out Charlie Chaplin, and he helped out Buster Keaton, and he is the person who discovered Bob Hope, believe it or not. Okay, so this is a guy who had a incredible amount of talent, was very graceful for a big guy, could do somersaults, could do cartwheels, could do great dance steps, and he was the highest paid actor of his time. $1 million a year in 1921. So he had a 3-year deal, $1 million a year for 3 years. So he's $3 million. He decides they're going to have a celebration because his latest movie came out, great reviews. They decide to go from Hollywood up to San Francisco.
Let me ask you this about reviews. Like back in the early, there just weren't that many movies. So I think like any movie with a good review, it's like, wow, look at that. Like
no, from 1909 to like 1925, there were hundreds and hundreds of movies, and you would go to the movie theater and you'd see 8, 9, 10 films during that time. Okay, and then as things got further down, you would have the newsreels, and then you would have a cartoon, and you would have all this other stuff. So the movie was a full day process. It wasn't just coming attractions. They actually had what they would call like 2 reels, 3 reels, which were like the shorts that you'd see from the Three Stooges. Okay, and even Laurel and Hardy had shorts. Even the Fatty Arbuckle had that. But now Fatty Arbuckle is at this hotel. He books 3 rooms on the top of the hotel in San Francisco, has a party, and one of the people who comes is a woman by the name of Virginia Rappe, Rappe. Now, she took the A, just like Vinnie did, okay, put at the end of his name. And her name was actually Virginia Rapp, but she thought it was more classy to have Rappe. So
Very beautiful. Very beautiful. She's very beautiful.
that she was attractive. She is there. She's had somewhat of a shaded past. She's had some issues with regards to the fact prior abortions. She's been involved with some unseemly individuals, may have had venereal disease, and
That's nothing to clap about.
yes.
Clap on, clap off.
Clap off. And that is the gift that keeps on giving. And, because love fades, but herpes never dies. So the important thing to remember is that she's at the party that she was brought there by a woman who was known as a madam, okay, whose name was Maud DeHaan, okay? Now, not Maud. And then
there's Maud.
Okay, not B. Arthur, okay?
Can you name all the spin-offs of the All in the Family show?
Yes, okay.
Got your Sanford, Jeffersons.
The Jeffersons, of course. Then there was Archie's Place. Then there was
Did Lamont get one briefly?
there wasn't there. Did who get one? Lamont?
Lamont.
How's Lamont got to do with
He was in the Jeffersons. So that would be a grandchild.
No,
Okay,
Lamont
okay.
Lamont was in Sanford and Son. Come on, oh, you big dummy.
Lionel. You're thinking
Lionel was in the
Lionel.
Jeffersons.
Lionel.
Lionel.
Lionel may have had a show, but there was two Lionels.
Yeah.
There was no Lionel.
And the original one came back eventually, I think.
All right, so can we go back to Fatty Arbuckle, please?
No,
Because
not yet. No, not yet. Because what was the woman from Good Times? That was Maud's maid, wasn't she?
Yes.
So Good Times.
No. Maud is Maud came from All in the Family.
Right. But who was their maid?
They didn't have a maid.
All right. So the mother in Good Times.
Maud was as liberal as they come. She wouldn't have had a maid. She wouldn't have had a maid.
Who was she a maid for?
Good Times?
Yeah.
I never watched Good Times, so I didn't. With JJ, with whatchamacallit, Dynamite, and
We'll get back to that. I got to figure that out.
Okay. So
Me too. I'm
now the
stumped.
party goes on. This woman, Maud DeHaan, okay, decides that, she's there and she's scoping out the scene to see who she could probably blackmail at this party because there's alcohol flowing and it's prohibition, as we know, and so there should not be any alcohol. And you hear screams from a bedroom. Door opens. You see Virginia Rappe, who's been tearing her clothes off, lying on a bed. They go to see what's wrong. Fatty Arbuckle is in there, and he says, I saw her. She's just screaming. I'm trying to calm her down and everything else. And her last words before she lapses into a delirium is that he hurt me. So what ends up happening is they decide they're going to try to calm her down. They're rubbing ice on her because she's saying that her abdomen is exploding. And they are trying to... They don't call it
leeches on her? Should they just put leeches on her?
They didn't go with the leeches. No leeches. And they decide that they're going to they call a doctor. They call a doctor. The doctor brings her to another room. She dies 4 days later. Now, Fatty Arbuckle took off, okay? And next thing you know, he gets a phone call that he's under arrest for murder. Murder. They get him for murder, okay? And this is all at the behest of this Maud because she had previously sent a telegram to her lawyer saying, I got Fatty Arbuckle in a very, very awkward situation. We could make a lot of money on this. Paraphrasing it, but that's basically what she said.
The shakedown. It's a money grab.
It was a money grab. And she's done this in the past. So they arrest him for murder. There is a picture of him with regards to his mugshot and everything else, and he gets tried for murder. They changed it.
This would be the equivalent of today having a murder trial with, like, who's the highest paid actor now in Hollywood? Who is it?
Raymond Mantooth and Kevin Tighe
Who?
from Emergency.
It's got to be one of the Marvel comic people, right? One of them.
Right. Yeah, the Rock. The Rock is
The Rock. Exactly. This would be The Rock on trial for murder.
Right. Now,
that's huge.
If you smell what the Rock is cooking. Hey,
But
Vinny, you like pancakes? You like pancakes, Vinny? It doesn't matter if you like pancakes.
well, the scenario with regards to what was going on here was that
Johnny cakes. You like Johnny cakes? They're different.
Oh, Johnny cakes.
Yeah. The Soprano fans out there.
Always puts me to sleep.
The scenario with regards to William Randolph Hearst jumps on this and starts publicizing the unseemly side of Hollywood, and is every day has an article about Fatty Arbuckle and about these parties that go on in Hollywood and all of this debauchery that's going on with these people who have so many millions of dollars that they are able to procure this prurient lifestyle. And he actually makes a brag that the trial of Fatty Arbuckle sold more newspapers than the sinking of the Lusitania.
Wow. So did they get cameras in there? I'm from Court TV. My show's on every night, Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock.
And I'm on with you on every Monday at 9 to 10.
I'm waiting for Springsteen to get arrested again.
Were there cameras? And I know it wouldn't have been live transmission, but at least like for the newsreels or something. Did they put cameras?
Well, they didn't have cameras in there, but they had sketch artists, and they had reporters in the courtroom. Now this the first trial, 10-2 acquit.
Acquit.
You have a DA who decides that this is going to be his ability to become a big shot and then possibly run for office.
You don't think it's run for governor?
Probably. So, he's up there and now he's trying to do everything. They switched the charges from murder to manslaughter. And interestingly enough, he does not get charged with rape. But William Randolph Hearst loved the fact that her name was Virginia Rapé and was calling her Virgin Rape. Wow. So he was playing that name and saying that, and the young girl Virgin Rape that, was going on there. So they painted Fatty Arbuckle as
it sounds like a manslaughter case, though. Like murder is like either, malice or premeditation. It seemed like that was not his intent.
Except though that
But how big was he? Like, was he so big that hurt her?
He was 266 pounds.
Okay, that's not like ridiculous.
At the biggest, he was 300. He was between 2 feet, would fluctuate between.
She didn't die immediately. What did the autopsy say?
The autopsy said she died of peritonitis. What happened was that she had an infection. Okay, and that's what caused her bladder to explode. It was not due to blunt trauma.
So how was that manslaughter?
Well, that's the point. Okay, they argued that the initial autopsy said it was blunt trauma. The subsequent autopsy said no, it was peritonitis. It was not blunt trauma. And the guy was so anxious to get Fatty Arbuckle on the stand and to go after him. And Fatty Arbuckle in the first trial took the stand. 10-2 to acquit. Second trial comes, defense gets a little cocky. They thought that the case was so ridiculous because some of the key witnesses from the first trial didn't show up for the second trial. And so they don't even do a closing and they don't put Fatty on the stand. Now it's 9-3 guilty. So now the third trial comes.
They go for the third one.
The third trial comes.
This time the charm? Is it the charm?
The third time is the charm, and it was the charm for this one. Jury's out for 5 minutes, comes back, not guilty, and writes a letter of apology to Fatty Arbuckle for having to go through this. Fatty Arbuckle's legal fees were in the realm of $700,000 back in 1921, which is about $14 million today. Okay. He was destroyed.
This would have been amazing, though, because if it's The Rock, right, and he does it in Florida, we got the cameras in the court, we would have 3 trials of The Rock.
3 trials of The Rock. And
Rocky
what
1,
ended up happening, though,
Rocky 2, and Rocky 3.
now,
Let me tell
what's
you.
interesting.
Rocky 1 and 3 are good. 2, I was not crazy about. I liked 1. I liked 3. I wasn't crazy about 2 and 4.
I
like 3
learned
because
that there was no such thing as a bad Rocky movie. I used to think that the final one that they did in the initial installments, where they had the street fight with Tommy Gunn, I thought it was bad, right? But the last time I watched it, I thought there was no such thing as a bad Rocky movie.
Well, all right. So poor Fatty. The situation was he gets acquitted.
No, it wasn't Fatty. It was Clubber Lang, right? In Rocky.
Right.
And then 2,
But also
3,
Thunderlips. Thunderlips was in that one with Hulk Hogan.
Which made him a superstar.
In 3.
Yes.
He was in 3.
That
But
was a turning point for him, for Hulk.
And he had hair back then.
Yes, he had hair back then too. So now he's acquitted, but at this point, his career is over. They were burning his films. They refused to go see him, and that they absolutely blackballed him forever. And to make matters worse, okay, much
Where's
like
he gotta go to get his reputation back in this town?
this is what ends up happening. Much like what ended up happening in the Black Sox scandal, they bring in some guy to become an overseer of films. Okay, the Hayes Commission, and the Hayes Commission banishes him from films, much like Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Got to be illegal. That's illegal.
Okay, well, that went for 8 months. Then 8 months, they said they would reinstate him. He was able to start doing it. But at this point, he couldn't even use his name, Fatty Arbuckle. And he went by his father's name, William B. Goodman. Okay.
He should have like gone on this major diet and come back as like Skinny Boy Johnson or something.
Well, what ends up happening is that Charlie Chaplin, stuck by him. Buster Keaton stuck by him, and they let him do directing of their films under a pseudonym so he could get money. And then all of a sudden, they feel that like movie studios are saying, from these minor parts that he has, the public wants to see him again. He signs a multi-picture deal, says it's the happiest day of his life, goes home, goes to bed, dies of a heart attack, and that's it.
That's why he should get on the diet.
46 years of age in 1933.
What are your thoughts about like Charlie Chaplin, right? Super famous, big star. And then Hitler comes along and steals his mustache, and all of a sudden, like it's not right. It's not right because you cannot have that mustache now. No one can wear that mustache. And like Charlie Chaplin, it should be his because he was a star. He was beloved. The other guy's a villain, and the villain ruins it for the movie.
Oliver Hardy had the same mustache.
That's right. He did. Did you know Michael Jordan tried it? Do you remember when he?
That's right. I do remember that. I do.
For like a year when it didn't.
Did people cite that it was a Hitler mustache?
I did myself. Like I looked at it because I think he was actually in a Hanes commercial with it, and I said,
"Makes you feel good all under."
Yeah. And you know what the problem was with Michael Jordan? You know how he tied his sneakers.
This is a joke.
How did he tie his sneakers?
In little Nazis.
Really? You see, I could tell that the joke was coming. I tried to duck out of the way, and I couldn't.
We're talking about a great comedian, Fatty Arbuckle, and the interesting and sad part about it is that they've always been talking about doing a movie about his life, and they were in negotiations with none other than Christopher Farley about playing the role of.
Who would play him now? Who would play him now? Who is the good large comedian today? I mean, all the good ones keep passing away young. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is that there really is
I think
not.
It's called overindulgence.
Yeah,
there really isn't anyone that I think would be able to take that role. Chris Farley, I thought, would be ideal because if you see a picture of Fatty Arbuckle, very, very, very similar. Very
What about,
buoyant
like,
face.
David Spade in like one of those sumo suits.
Nah, it's too small. He's too short. He wouldn't be able to get away with that. But you know what? I mean, the sad part about all of this is that Fatty Arbuckle was a pioneering comedian. I mean, he started out with the Keystone Cops, worked his way to a point where he was making $1 million a year in 1921.
He was a Keystone Cop. I watched a reel. I watched a video reel, and I saw him dressed as a Keystone. But I thought he was just parodying it. I didn't know.
He was a part of.
Did they ever solve any cases? Did they solve cases? The Keystone Cops?
They became the Los Angeles Police Department. But you get a chance, take a look at some of his films. They're on. You can find them on YouTube. One of the great ones is Fatty and Mabel Adrift. He also has Fatty at Coney Island, which was with actually Buster Keaton's first film, where he had a major role with him. And then his first movie was in 1909. It was called Ben's Kid. And they're really remarkable. The pathos that he's able to convey, and the grace and the comedic.
Would have been nice to see him during the talkies, right?
Well, would he have been able to do it?
He did go into the talkies.
Was he able to perform well? I mean, a lot of people lost their career at that point because they couldn't do it.
Well, no, he could, because he had a great singing voice. That was the other thing about him, is he was a wonderful.
Did Caruso tell him that he should pursue opera and give up that ridiculous showbiz career of his? I had read that.
What?
Caruso?
Fatty Arbuckle?
Enrico Caruso. I read
Enrico Caruso.
Told him that he should give up this ridiculous comedy and he could be the second best singer in the world.
Oh, interesting.
No. But Fatty was a true legend, and no one knows about him anymore. And it's very, very sad to go through 3 trials. And guess what, Vin? He was arrested in September, of 1921, and 3 trials were done before May of 1922.
Wow. Rocket time.
Where the hell do you see that ever happen in the real world anymore?
Right. You don't even time to file a motion. Unbelievable.
So, but, get the opportunity, take a look at them, watch some of these things, watch the old films. The silent films are...
Yeah, watch those films. Watch those films.
So, so Fatty Arbuckle, he's our guy. Jonesy, send us out, my friend.
We're out.